Hey guys, Mr. Shaw back again. It's the Saturday before spring break, so I figured I should probably get these videos done by before the weekend. I don't wanna wait for our lives to be over. Why? Anyway, let's get to it. Okay, so here we go. African Americans lead the struggle for civil rights. So guys, we've talked a lot about the things that African Americans had to deal with, especially after Reconstruction and the 13th Amendment passing after the Civil War was over. Again, so we've had this time, and things have really never gotten better. So we're trying to, by the time we get to the 1950s and 60s, the African Americans are really leading the charge for equal civil rights. Now, again, it's not just African Americans. We will talk a lot about women, a lot about Hispanics. Again, there'll be a lot of different groups, Native Americans as well, that are going to be trying to get equal rights. But we're going to start with African Americans. So let's get to it. All right, so we're going to start with the Eisenhower administration. So I know we were talking about Kennedy and Johnson, but we're going to go back a little bit just because it is relevant during the Eisenhower administration as well. So 1952 to 1960, let's start there. So in the 50s, we have the passage of, not that passage, but the Supreme Court ruling of Brown versus Board of Education that said that these segregated schools are unconstitutional. So again, we still have school segregation in the South. That was passed in 1896 via the Supreme Court case Plessy versus Ferguson that said that as long as there were separate but equal facilities, then it was okay. Now, in 1954, we have Brown versus Board of Education, like I said, that says that anything separate is inherently unequal. Okay, and that's really important because we get this idea that, if there are two different things, two different ways of doing things, that is definitely going to be unequal in itself. We also know already that most of the facilities weren't equal. Again, they would spend a lot. They would have a certain amount of money, say $200 to spend on, drinking fountains. So they would spend $150 on a drinking fountain and then $50 on a drinking fountain for, for the African Americans. Again, so we already knew that it wasn't fair. In the South, though, after this was passed, this is a Supreme Court ruling, so the president has to enforce it. So it is in the South, they just kind of ignored it at first. So they remained segregated for several years despite the ruling, and they basically, Southern whites believed that racial integration would threaten their racial heritage. They thought that, again, they would lose power and status in the South if they allowed for racial integration. So this leads to one really big confrontation in Little Rock, Arkansas, at a place called Central High School. In 1957, so again 3 years after Brown versus Board of Education, the governor actually forbade the Little Rock Nine, that was 9 African American students, from being enrolled in Central High School. The school was trying to integrate, but there was a lot of backlash, a lot of other issues in Arkansas. People, like the white people especially, were not okay with this. They did not want they did not want the school to be integrated. So anyway, the Little Rock Nine, these 9 African American children were forbidden from coming into the school. So Eisenhower, during this time, he had this, again, it's his job to enforce the Supreme Court's ruling, so he sent in the National Guard in order to escort these black students into the school. So this was really, really big. Again, we have states openly disobeying federal law, and then Eisenhower, again, it's his job as president to make sure that those federal laws are getting enforced, so he steps in and makes sure that they are being followed. We also have James Meredith was the first African American to enroll at Mississippi's law school in 1962. So we have some progress, but again, it's going to be a very slow process. So this leads us to the Montgomery bus boycott, and we're going to talk a little bit more in class about the Little Rock Nine. I'll show you a few videos because that is really interesting to learn about as well. We'll talk about the Montgomery bus boycott as well. So anyway, Rosa Parks, she was a seamstress, a very long time NAACP worker, and she decided that she did not like she wanted to challenge the city's bus segregation laws. Again, you would basically how it would be is that all of the whites would sit in the front and all of the blacks would sit in the back, and again that was just how it was. So if there was no one else, if there were no white people on the bus, you could sit in the front. But when white people came onto the bus, it was expected that the African Americans would give up their seat for the white person. So Rosa Parks knows this is going to happen, so she goes and she gets on the bus, and again, December 1st, 1955, she is arrested because she refused to give up her seat to a white man. Now, we know that because of Brown versus Board of Education, that segregation in public schools or in public places is now unconstitutional, and so African Americans know this. They're going to be able to kind of use this as a kind of a spark to get them moving towards these equal rights, these civil rights that they deserve. So in protest to Rosa Parks getting arrested, this leads to a boycott on all Montgomery buses. Okay, and this is really important too, just because again, think of for the bus station, or for the bus company rather, they are going to lose a lot of money because there's a lot of African Americans in Montgomery that use the bus. Okay, so that's the first major thing we'll talk about. Let's go ahead and get to it. The bus boycott is going to be led by Martin Luther King Jr. Again, he is going to kind of become the spokesperson for the boycott itself. And that's really important too, just because this is going to bring Martin Luther King to the forefront of the civil rights movement. So these, the African Americans are going to organize carpools. They're going to use what's known as black taxis, or they're just going to walk to their destinations. And they did this for almost a year. Again, and you think about how hard that would be if you have, you think about your regular transportation, and something was very, very wrong with your regular transportation, and you had to find another way to do it for a year. Again, that's a really long process that's going to take a lot of organization, a lot of outside help in order to get that, to be accomplished. So the bus company, as I said, they are losing almost 3/4 of their passengers, so they nearly go bankrupt. And this causes basically the bus company was struggling, the people were struggling after the African Americans were struggling, having to find new transportation for almost a year. But in 1956, the Supreme Court ordered an end to segregated buses as a whole. Okay, so that's really important again. So the Montgomery bus boycott is going to be very successful, and it's the first major success in this civil rights movement. All right, so let's go ahead. Those are the major things for the Eisenhower. Let's go ahead and transfer to the Kennedy administration. So the first thing to talk about with the Kennedy administration is the sit-in movement. Now, the sit-in is a type of protest, and the first sit-in was actually held in Greensboro, North Carolina, on February 1st, 1960. Now, what happened was, 4 black college students sat down at Woolworth's. Woolworth is like a diner. It was a whites-only lunch counter, and all they did was they sat there and they refused to leave until they were served. Now what's interesting about that is that they were not served, and they sat there. Again, you see that they're dressed in nice clothes. Again, this is a picture of them right here. Again, they're dressed in nice clothing. They are being very respectful. They are not they are waiting until they are going to be served. The initial goal here is to break segregation at lunch counters, but again, this really spreads to the like the whole kind of racial segregation movement and the whole just like all the civil rights issues that were happening in America during the 60s. So they're, like I said, they're going to use nonviolent tactics. They're not going to speak. They're not going to they're literally not doing anything. They're not going to read a book. They're just going to sit there peacefully until they get served. Some of these protesters, these sit-in protesters, and some other protesters as well, were attacked. In this case in particular, again, there were white teens that attacked the protesters, and again, they are just going to sit there and they're going to take it. But they will, again, like I said, they were unsuccessful, but they weren't doing anything. They were just sitting peacefully, and then the whites were the ones that came in and attacked them. So this is really going to kind of spread to 100 other cities, and it's really going to show people the injustices of these racially segregated places. So here are your rules for sit-ins. You want to show yourself to be friendly at all times. Again, these are just your do's and don'ts. You want to be friendly. You want to smile. You want to sit straight and always face the counter. Again, you don't want to like look away or turn around or anything like that. You just want to you're waiting patiently. You do not want to strike back or curse if attacked. You don't want to laugh. You don't want to hold conversations. You don't want to block entrances, and you always want to dress up. So this is just, again, you're showing that you are peaceful people, that you are not nonviolent. You don't want to hurt business at all. All you want to do is what you want to be served, okay? And that's it. So again, a couple pictures here. You see one of the white teens here is pouring a soda or some sort of drink like on the woman, this woman here. There, and it looks like this woman here has something on her head as well. Again, these people are just, again, the segregation had happened for so long that the white people especially were used to it, and that was their norm. There was their normal way of living, and they did not appreciate these African Americans coming in and trying to change their way of life. But again, the African Americans are very deserving of that. They deserve equal treatment. So this is a very powerful picture. So this is going to lead kind of transition into demonstrations into Birmingham, again, where it's going to get a little bit more violent. If you've ever seen the movie Selma, that is about the Selma March, we're kind of getting started here in Birmingham. They show that really well in that movie. So Birmingham, Alabama, again, that is a very, very southern city. It was chosen for a series of demonstrations because it was known for its segregation and its abuse of African Americans. So May 2nd, 1963, there were over 600 children and teens marched for freedom and were arrested. Okay, again, now you say, be very careful what you're reading here. Put a star by where it says children and teens. We are again, these, and they were all African Americans, or not all African Americans, but most of them were African Americans, and they were arrested for protesting. Now, again, that is in your Bill of Rights. You have the right, the freedom to assemble, and again, like as long as it is peaceful. And these people were protesting peacefully, and that was not tolerated in Birmingham. Now, this is really important because then the Birmingham government, the city government, ordered the use of clubs, fire hoses, and dogs on the marchers. So they, again, children and teens. So they were used like fire hoses, dogs, clubs, anything like that. They were using them on these protesters. Now, why this is really significant is this last bullet. This event was actually caught on television, and it created a huge public backlash, leading to an end to segregation in the city. So what's really important about this is that people, even white people who are in the northern cities, they're going to see this. They're going to see the injustice. They're going to see the horrible things that are going on, and they're going to say, that's not right. I am absolutely like there's no reason that those children should have been abused in that way, and we need to do something about it. So you're going to see a lot of even white people coming down from the north, because they see this horrible thing that's going on, and they want to do something to help. Again, a couple pictures here for you. Oops, sorry, I forgot one more bullet. This is going to be a turning point in the civil rights movement because it is going to show people the injustices that are going on in the South. Again, you see we have the use of dogs, again, the use of like fire hoses on these people who are just peacefully protesting. They are protesting their, like their inability to get the rights that they deserve. All right, so this is going to lead to 1963 March on Washington. So the violence in Birmingham, President Kennedy decides to propose civil rights legislation. So what he said, again, this is going to try to bring equal rights to African Americans specifically. And the march was organized by Dr. Martin Luther King, or he was a big part of it anyway, to show support and to pressure Congress to pass Kennedy's civil rights legislation. So it takes place on August 3rd in 1963, and 250,000 marchers gathered at Lincoln Memorial to listen to speeches. There was no violence. There was no, but the other part of it is that there was no impact on Congress. And this is where Dr. Martin Luther King gave his very famous "I Have a Dream" speech, which again we'll talk about more in class. All right, I'm going to stop here. We'll pick up with our last video with the civil rights during the Johnson administration. Thanks for watching. See you next time.